But these conversations are a way to keep people tuned in, to disseminate important information, and also to uplift folks and get some hope in this time where we need it most. So I'm so excited to have you, Tom, on our first day because I have a lot of respect for you. You're one of those people that is really, you're kind of like a gay triple threat. You're like you know how like the triple threat in Broadway is like you sing, you dance, you act. You're like good at throwing parties, you're good at politics, and you're like a boss in education. So it's just, and you're gorgeous. So all those things.
Thank you. Well, I admittedly, when we were able to talk about when we wanted to participate, and I'm just so excited that you're doing this. I think people are so hungry to be able to interact with their community right now, even though we're physically not supposed to be doing very much of that. And I have to admit, closing out the first day felt a little bit special and felt exciting. So I'm just really proud to get to do it. Thanks so much for doing this, and thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. So let's start. It's two things. So 10 minutes on community college, 10 minutes on queer nightlife. We're gonna race through it. So community college has closed all of its campuses. So tell me, how many students now cannot go to school physically, and how many of those classes have been moved online?
Sure. So we declared a state of emergency a couple weeks ago. The Board of Trustees did at City College of San Francisco. All of the best information we were getting at that time was that schools and colleges and any place where people were congregating in large groups would present an increased danger for the spread of COVID-19. I think community colleges, and if you look at the timing, our decision predated the San Francisco Unified School Districts, the K-12 districts by about 4 or 5 by a working week. And at City College, so we have a little over 60,000 students, and many of our students and our faculty members, unlike the student body you'll find at a K-12 college, are actually members of vulnerable populations. So we have a lot of seniors and lifelong learners who are in our student body, and a lot of longtime tenured faculty, classified staff, and administrators who really we knew even at that point should be practicing social distancing and should be taking necessary precaution. So we made that decision and have been rolling out a plan to move as many of our classes as possible, which we're hoping can be about 75 to 80% of our credit classes into online learning formats. We fortunately, City College has been investing quite a bit over the last couple years in City Online, which is sort of our regular online class delivery platform, and had already found a lot of students, enjoying the platform. For us, it's not about moving. It wasn't supposed to be about moving all classes online. It was complementing our physical classes and believing there's still a really important need for those with these additional online tools. But because of this emergency, we're glad we had the infrastructure in place, both the technology, but also faculty who are increasingly comfortable with teaching their classes online and students who are already getting used to it, to be able to really ramp that up and be able to continue to offer the vast majority of our classes, even at a time when we're not doing any in-person learning. So right now, we are on spring break at City College. I'm sure not the spring break that our students and our faculty and our staff expected, but on March 30th, we'll be back from spring break, and all of our classes that are able to will be returning in online formats. In theory, we have the ability through the rest of the semester, which would assume that between now and May, public health guidance will be such that those should still be online classes. But, hopefully we can come back sooner, but we'll see. That was a lot.
So first of all, hats off to you, and probably convenient timing, good timing at the spring break now, because it's maybe less of a disruption. What do you think are going to be the long-term ramifications of this if, let's say, you're not able to bring classes back until May 1 or even June 1? What do you think are the long-term effects of all this?
I think that there are some classes that we just cannot, for whether they're lab classes, ceramic classes, certain types of art classes that just are, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to move to an online format. And I think those are the classes that we're most concerned about, because we want to be able to finish the semester with those classes. We know students want those credits. And so that's my biggest concern, is acknowledging there are some limitations to this that we don't have answers to, but also acknowledging that despite people being really upset about that reality, that at the end of the day, the ultimate responsibility that we have is to maintain the health and safety of our faculty, our staff, our administrators, and most importantly, our students. And that there's no risk that is worth putting that in jeopardy. But I think we're grappling with that. We're also trying, all of our student support services are still available online. And one of the concerns that we do have is that not everyone is fully technologically literate. Not everyone has access to computers with internet. There are barriers there that we honestly are still working through, because as much as we want to have, say, computer labs open for our students, right now, that the shelter in place order that is in place in the city and in the state does not allow, we can't do that.
Right.
We can't. There were services I think we'd hoped we would be able to offer, and sort of physical space that people who needed access to that technology could have, that just because we're in an unprecedented public health crisis, we're still working out solutions to. But we have incredible people who've been working for the last couple of weeks to try to get some answers, and I'm hopeful we can. But those are sort of the two challenges that I see between now and the end of May, are those classes that can't come online, and just students who, for whatever reason, don't have access to the sort of resources they need to successfully participate in online courses.
So before we get to, thank you very much for giving us lay of the land. I hope that it ends sooner rather than later. We all do. But before we go to Queer Nightlife, you're kind of in the midst of it all. You're working City Hall. You're Raphael Mandelman's chief of staff, who's a supervisor for District 8, my supervisor. And I guess my question is, can you give me some hopeful story from how the city is responding to this, something that you're seeing happening keeping you optimistic?
Sure. Well, I don't think there is a better local Department of Public Health than the San Francisco Department of Public Health. I think we are so lucky, especially it's so weird that every day I am tuning into a Donald Trump press conference. I had avoided them for 3+ years. And now, because the scale of assistance we really need is a federal, if not global scale of assistance to deal with this, I'm watching them. And we obviously can't count on our federal government for the support we need right now. I think the state of California and Governor Newsom are doing an amazing job. But really, what San Francisco is so lucky to have is this incredible, talented local Department of Public Health, whose sort of strength was actually born out of the AIDS crisis of the 80s, and this sort of this internationally renowned model for addressing infectious diseases that was born in San Francisco. And so some of the people who are architects of that and the people who followed them are still here today, working for the San Francisco Department of Public Health. So we have just this incredible team of public health professionals, and then going out from there of all the different levels of administrative support that they're being given to help address this. So the thing that
you're seeing it work.
Right? Yeah, we're seeing it work. And we're, when people have said, oh, San Francisco has initially there was this, oh, San Francisco has the most restrictive policies in the country in addressing COVID-19, to me, I was like, thank God. I'm glad that we have taken this the most seriously and been the most proactive of any local government in addressing this. So my hope is that we have the best people in the country doing the best work night in and night out that they can do. And that because of that, San Franciscans will remain safer and be able to bounce back from this more quickly than many, 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 many other places as well.
So let's talk about the closure and how it's affecting queer nightlife, which is something you're very involved in. if you maybe you could take a second and tell folks who are listening and folks who will be listening afterwards, just kind of what your involvement is in queer nightlife. And then obviously, so after doing that, obviously, about all the bars are closed, but I want you to talk a little bit about what you think the right now short-term effects of that are on the queer community.
Yeah, thank you. So I got my start in nightlife before I got my start in politics. It's my wild sort of road to San Francisco politics, and started DJing probably 10, 11 years ago, and ended up working with an amazing crew of people to throw a queer soul dance party called Hard French at El Rio for 10 years. And also for probably, we did Hard French for 10 years there, and then still work with a couple amazing collaborators to throw a queer drag party at El Rio called Daytime Realness.
We interviewed Heklina this morning.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Oh my God, you should have gotten Stanley in there, and you could have gotten the whole crew. And then was an active owner of Virgil's Sea Room, which is a neighborhood bar in the Mission for 5 years prior to my joining Raphael's team. And I think that I remember like talking to my dad. I think this must have been during the last recession, and I was kind of new here, and I was just telling him these stories about how he grew up in like the 60s and 70s, and I was like, queer arts and music and drag in San Francisco is like the modern equivalent of what like the best of music and art was in the 60s and 70s, and we just have like this incredible like just this elevated level of art and intentionality and innovation in our nightlife that makes this the kind of place that I still want to live and want to fight for. And I think, as you alluded to, there are, I think, few industries as hard hit by the very necessary restrictions we've put on socializing to combat COVID-19 as our nightlife and sort of greater hospitality industries. And I think, queer nightlife in particular, and I guess this is the same with all nightlife, but for so many people who have had a difficult time finding space and community and gainful employment in the most expensive city in America, nightlife has created that space and that community and that vehicle for relative financial sustainability. I don't think anybody is getting rich off San Francisco nightlife, but people are able to live here and able to thrive. And those are the people who have been so deeply impacted right now. First with sort of the larger scale venue closures, and then pretty quickly this move that has closed all of our bars. Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys, all of our bars, all of our restaurants, and they're just.
Are you worried places are not going to reopen, Tom?
I
you
think
hearing about bars not being able to reopen?
I mean, I think we should all be a little worried. Honestly, I think we should all be hopeful. I think we should all be supporting people with these emergency measures that we are. But I think that to me is why it's so important that we take the public health orders we've received so seriously, because the way we keep people alive and are able to get back to business as usual, whatever that may look like, as quickly as possible, is by flattening that curve and minimizing the impact of COVID-19 in San Francisco. And
okay, but real talk on that though, real quick. So we're all, and by the way, anyone that's tuning in the next at 7:20 in 4 minutes, we're going to start the Q&A. So you can start entering in your questions at Q&A. It's that little button on the bottom. So go ahead and start writing your questions. Everyone's talking about flattening the curve. We're taking all these drastic measures and we're shutting down the economy here in San Francisco. But it feels, I think it's working. It seems kind of like it's working, but like, what about people who come from other parts of the country or the state that aren't taking these drastic measures? Like, aren't they going to fuck it up for the rest of us?
I mean, that's the challenge. I think that community spread is much more, I think Yes.
I hate to put it in those terms, but like not everyone is taking
No,
as
they're
seriously
not. I
as
mean,
we are, and
lucky
we're not shutting down the borders of California.
I mean, at some point, we're going to be like all those kids that were just at spring break in Florida, don't come in here. I mean, I don't think we know what's going to happen. I think that we're lucky in that our response has been coordinated with 6 other neighboring counties. So we have a regional response,
Right.
and the state of California has implemented I mean, like, again, Governor Newsom is leading the way on this and has put in place some very strong, sensible public health policies for the state. I think at a federal level, again, we're not going to have real leadership. But I also, when I watch those horrible daily press conferences, I see reality descending. Actually, I don't know if I can even say this. He's out of touch with reality, but it is sort of setting in that like this is going to be tough and it's going to be hard. And I mean, coming back to your question about whether businesses will survive, my hope is yes. My hope, and we're already, my hope is that landlords will be reasonable about deferred rent, that employers will do the best they can to help support their employees, that we'll all give as much as we can to help support these things like the SFA Area Queer Nightlife Fund, all the GoFundMe's, that by the way has raised $70,000 already for queer and nightlife workers in San Francisco.
Yes.
But I think what we also need is for federal and state investment and policy changes to allow independent contractors and gig workers and drag queens and DJs to apply for state unemployment insurance, to allow for further real substantive investments at the federal level to subsidize some of these businesses while they have to remain closed, and to provide basic living expenses for workers who are stuck in these sort of shelter in place orders. I think if we're able to get that scale of support, we will not be able to erase the economic impact of this. I think we're going to be feeling it this year and for years. But my hope is that with real substantive investment at all levels of government, we can minimize that and be able to rebound as quickly as possible and get as many of these businesses open again.
Okay, so my last question for this piece is, I want you to imagine it's over. The virus the curve has been flattened. San Francisco did its work, and everything is back open for business. I want you to describe how that's going to feel, and also what you think some of the maybe unexpected positive outcomes are going to be after this is all said and done.
I mean, I'm kind of imagining this like Summer of Love Part 2, where sort of the repressed San Francisco that has been in quarantine for weeks and months, like explodes into the street with like flowers in our hair and just sort of our best magical selves coming forward. And I mean, I think we're already sort of seeing that, like, and we're seeing that in place. So one of the cute things we saw, there's like this whole block in Noe Valley that everybody's like putting out pink flamingos just to sort of create a more vibrant and interesting streetscape. And like, I don't know if people, I mean, what else was anybody doing? I'd imagine a lot of people were online over the weekend, and we're seeing like all of these like in-home DJ sets, and like some of the best drag I've ever seen I saw on like Instagram Live on like Saturday night. And so I think people are already sort of trying to build up their creative juices and their best selves. And once we're finally able to be out there again, I think that San Francisco will be ready to sort of unleash that magic in a way that no other place can. And I think, I'm hopeful we will have just all come together as a community to survive this really, really challenging time. And we'll be more engaged in whatever it is that we love to do, more interested in getting to know our community and to share in this city than we had been while we were taking it for granted.
I think the same thing will happen, and I'm looking forward to that day.
Okay.
Those who have questions, you can type your questions in the Q&A box. We do have one question from Jupiter, and it's, how can regular San Franciscans mobilize to help preserve the culture of San Francisco that comes from queer nightlife? So how can San Franciscans mobilize to help preserve this culture that comes from queer nightlife? And please add your questions in.
That is a great question, Jupiter. I mean, I think right now, practically, I alluded to a few things like the SF Queer Nightlife Fund and all these other fundraisers that are currently out there to support the basic living needs of the people who create that culture and that nightlife. And if you have the resources, which I know a lot of folks don't right now, to be able to contribute to those efforts to sort of just provide the basic funds that people need to hang on here, I think that'll be a big help. I think also sort of like figure out what your magic is, like figure out what you individually can contribute to that sort of culture and place, and experiment with it, and like use this time to like, you know, paint, or to sing out your window, or to record fun things, or to just like whatever expression of sort of joy and culture you feel most connected to, like do it now, hone it, like get ready to really let it out there when we're all finally out of our houses again. But don't wait till then, like do it now to the best degree you can, so that you're sort of personally prepared to leap back in. And also just like I've been trying every day to, you know, reach out to 10 or 15, just go through my phone and reach out to 10 or 15 people who I think just need to hear from folks, and let them know that you love them, and ask how they're doing. And, you
Really
know,
connect with people.
yeah, just like just talk to people. Like I've had some amazing text conversations with people who I don't think I've ever texted with, who I just was like, let's stay connected, like let's keep community going. So little things like that. I think I'm getting my wine refill. This is so
I know.
cool.
I'm like, I'm like so excited about my gin and tonic moment right
I think I just spilled a little wine on my keyboard. Sorry. But no, just don't forget to check in.
It's a very classy glass, by the way.
Thank you know, from the Castro's own Stag and Manor. When they reopen, please support your local brick and mortar
Yeah.
shops, and go to Stag and Manor for their wonderful glass.
All right, we have two more questions, so let's get to them.
Good.
One, Felony Castro asked whether or not you're seeing SFPD intervening on folks who are not really adhering to shelter in place. Like apparently there's a lot of folks in the Panhandle who've been out each day. Or do you believe that the rest of San Francisco residents are going to be observing the staying at home order?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I drove around to go to the grocery store this weekend, which is an essential activity, and I was pretty disturbed, honestly. Like this, I mean, I guess this isn't a vacation. Like people did not get laid off from their jobs over the last 2 weeks, and healthcare workers are not putting their lives at risk to watch us all have like a beach day and a park day and a party. That is not what this is. And it is that serious. Like people ignoring social distancing, and people going out there and pretending like this is just some like fun excuse to hang out and congregate with friends outdoors. Like that's not the point. That is not what this is about. Like people's lives are on the line, and I am really disturbed at what feels like a lot of people not acting that way. So stop it. In terms of the SFPD intervention, I mean, I think the goal is not to criminalize that behavior. It's to educate the public as quickly as possible about how urgent it is that they take the right steps to preserve the health of themselves and the people around them. I mean, I've seen, you know, SFPD stopping and telling folks like, look, you can't do this. You can't hang out here. But frankly, almost everybody in our city government has really, really urgent things to do, whether it's sort of overseeing and assembling sort of emergency medical supplies and responses. And it's like, it shouldn't be on the police to tell us to stop doing something so stupid and reckless and dangerous. So while I think they will do it as a last resort, I think it's on some of us to like call out our peers if we see them doing it on social media. Like I am not above, like if I see a group of people sitting around in a park and I'm walking by to like walk my dog, also an essential activity for now, if we don't screw it up, to tell people like, hey, you should really knock that off. That's not cool. Like, I think we should be, you know, checking on the behavior of the people around us, especially the people we're close to encourage them to act right and not necessarily depend on the police to be doing this when frankly they again have even more important things to be doing.
Okay, we only have 4 minutes, so I'm gonna get the last two questions as one.
Be quick.
Felipe Affendor, it's what first got you interested in local San Francisco politics, and what have you learned the most from working with Supervisor Mandelman? And then our mutual friend Shannon asks, how did you grow such an amazing mustache?
Oh my God. I'll take the second question last. That's right. I mean, I came from a political family. My mom was a nurse, which is why I also am getting really pissed off at people putting healthcare professionals at risk because I think of my mom. And my dad was a teacher and then a principal, and we just were a very political family. And I mean, when I came to San Francisco, one of the first things I did, I was at San Francisco State, and I read The Mayor of Castro Street, which is the incredible biography of Harvey Milk, on the now defunct 26 bus that used to go down Valencia all the way to SF State. And it just reminded me, oh my gosh, am I gonna have a cameo? This is my dog Valerie, everybody.
Hi.
And just sort of thought that San Francisco politics presented such a unique opportunity to really get engaged at a grassroots level and have this tremendous impact. Like you can't get, like you can, if you want to be in San Francisco politics and make a difference, you can do that like tomorrow. You can get in there and get engaged. That isn't the same in most places. And so I just got inspired by that story and got into it. I think what I learned the most from Raphael is, and this started, we were colleagues on the city college board before I went to work in his office, is just to be, governance is about, you have a responsibility in governance to be thorough and to be deliberative and to make smart choices, to talk to people about the impacts that a policy you're considering might have on them, and to talk to all kinds of people, and to weigh the politics of the moment against what is actually in the best interest of the greater good. And they oftentimes are not aligned. And I believe that he leads and governs about what, in a deliberative fashion, about what is better for the greater good, even though it may not always be the flavor of the moment. And I think that that's what good governance is about, and I'm lucky to have learned that from him. Also, he's funny, and it's nice to know that there's some space for humor in politics. So the mustache, Shannon, the way I grew this mustache was that I have grown a giant beard since I was like 14 years old, and occasionally especially when I'm like really stuck looking at nothing but my own face for like 3 weeks on end, feel a need for a change. And also was trying to look at some of the health best practices about like facial hair holding viruses and not being good, and was like, I think it's time for my very oversized like hibernation beard to go. And I did a little Insta poll because that's how we're all doing things these days. And like the 90% approval rate for a mustache went out. And so
there you go. Well, all the mysteries have been solved. All the questions have been answered. I didn't participate in the poll, but if I would have been pro mustache. It looks great. It's lovely to work with you in San Francisco politics. You are a class act. I hope the stud is doing okay. The stud is, of course, such an essential part of queer nightlife in San Francisco. And like I said, we had Heklina. For those listening, quick plug, tomorrow we have 3 because a member of Congress pulled out. I'm not going to name who. But we have Myrna Melgar, who's the former president of the Planning Commission, talking about how we can recover. Then we have a 5 o'clock conversation with Gregory Ferenstein about the importance of legalizing psychedelic mushrooms. And at 7 o'clock, we have a conversation with Max Patinkin about how farmers are being affected by the crisis and what we can do to help our local farmers. We have over 100 conversations that are being planned or confirmed for the Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. Really, really ask folks to please make a contribution in the chat box. The link is, and I'm gonna put it up for you, but the link is joinit.org/o/Manny's. You can see it on my screen. It's joinit.org/o/Manny's. And that is the link to donate to Manny's and keep us open as well during this time and support us. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you, Tom, for the time and for all that you do for our city. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Manny. Thanks, everybody, for watching.